Well, good morning again. It is such a joy to be here for so many reasons. As I was sharing with Margaret, I actually looked at Guilford College back when I was looking at colleges around the country after I graduated, in preparation for graduating from high school. And there is always a little bit of regret that I did not choose to come here. I was from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and didn't know. I ended up in a lot of different places. You're going to hear a little bit about that. But I'm glad in some ways because you never know where your life journey is going to take you. And I'm not sure I would be in North Carolina now if I had come here for college. And I absolutely feel called to this place. I often refer to North Carolina as the bioregion of my heart. I was very much called here to do this work. And I let Bill know that although I talk about the issues and impacts of global climate change as a moral imperative almost every minute of every day, this morning I'd like to bring a different message to you because I feel the sacredness of the Friends meeting and the reference of the work that we are doing with North Carolina Interfaith Power and Light that we'll be talking more about this afternoon under the umbrella of our Advocating with Compassion message, as I'm inspiring and empowering people to begin to be more involved in public policy advocacy at the legislature and at the federal level. The first message that we always want to bring to new friends as we meet each other is the story of ourselves. And since I haven't met most of you in the room, I'd like to share with you this morning a little bit about my journey and hope this is the beginning of a long relationship together. So thank you for that. I am part of a generation called X. This refers to the group of people who were born during the Vietnam War. We grew and developed our basic selves through Nixon and Carter. We created our sense of the world in the era of Reagan and MTV. We became adults in the age of Clinton. Perhaps we have gotten our famous generation title from the notion that X marks the spot in time where the sacred is in impasse. Certainly it has seemed that way since I can remember. Through the efforts of activists in the 60s and 70s and 80s, I grew up with the knowledge that I was partly responsible for much of the suffering and injustice that was taking place in the world. As a white person, I was experiencing white privilege. Coming from an upper middle class family, I was part of the elite in an economic caste system. As an American, I consumed more than any other country's citizens did. But unlike many of my Generation X brothers and sisters who have become overwhelmed with this awareness, I was in search about what to do about it. What needed to change? How could I know all of this, be told of my heritage of oppression, and still have hope and motivation? My last semester of college, a faculty member named Michael McAvoy organized a group of students to focus on solutions. He realized that it was not enough to point out what was wrong with society. We must provide alternatives and a space for resolution. This was the beginning of a new curriculum titled Culture, Ecology, and Sustainable Community. We learned about watersheds and their riparian corridors. We studied concepts of permaculture and community-supported agriculture. This kind of education created a complete shift in my cognizance. I realized that I did not know how to care for my community or myself. It was the first time I thought about the most basic questions. Where does my water come from? Where does my food come from? Where do my clothes come from? I completed my undergraduate degree with the overwhelming sense that there was something very wrong about the way young people are educated in our culture, and that my years as an underachiever in school reflected most teachers' lack of opportunity to really teach the wisdom of basic life skills. The focus of work in education and child development is out of context with the state of our environment. As educators, we are skipping some vital basic information, focusing solely on human relationships and developed society. We are developing young people who have little connection to life's natural dependencies. I decided to focus in on this challenge and became a field teacher at an outdoor environmental science school. In the beginning, I followed the traditional science-oriented lesson plan, teaching the details of the forest ecosystem and riparian communities. However, every year, it did not fail that 90% of the kids who came to the camp could not focus on any kind of lesson plan other than the simple discipline of can and cannots in the outdoors. I realized that there was a missing link in the work that we do as educators. I was asking the children to learn the importance of the interdependent web without sharing the whole story. There was more going on in that forest of life than scientific naming. I wanted them to know the mystery of the forest, the secret puzzle of life, but no one had ever taught me. I decided to take a different approach and changed my field teaching of science into field vision quests. I learned about Native American practices of the medicine wheel and used it to teach interdependence and nature theory. I spent most of my time on trails leading sessions of silence. I could see the increased awareness in the children. As the young people deepened their connection to the earth, I was developing my sense of the holy. Everything began to take on the spiritual. It was as though God was speaking through me as I told the children stories of the universe. It became time to take a journey of my own vision quest. I knew that I needed to make a change in my life, to move away from teaching select groups of young people and begin taking direct action for the environment. I focused on broad questions of what is my purpose and how can I best be of service? One word kept coming into my consciousness: religion. Over and over and over again. Religion, religion, religion. As a person who was raised Unitarian, and as an adult who did not attend any kind of traditional church, this came as a bit of a shock. My question was, what is going on with religion? And the answer that I received was, yes. And I was left with this to ponder. After much thought and struggle, I decided that I better find out what is going on with religion. The idea of studying theology began to make perfect sense. The missing link that I had spent years working on was somehow intricately wrapped up in the relationship of people to the earth, humans to that which is sacred. It was during my first year at Star King School for the Ministry that I began to develop a concept of thecology. Thecology is a conviction that our point of existence in this world is to harmonize with nature. Thecology, I believe, is the critical bridge to reinventing our culture. We each hold a story of our personal evolution in consciousness. This in itself is the work of creation. And it is this makeup of each individual's experience that creates the realities of community. My developing personal theology, or thecology, stems from the belief that evolution and creation are of the same essence. In fact, they are the processes of each other. This theory holds center the notion of God becoming, that creation is constantly unfolding, and that evolution is the driving force. Or vice versa, that evolution is constantly occurring, and that creation is the driving force. It has been the stance of both fundamental religions and fundamental scientists that these are two separate concepts. This dualism has encouraged a secular organization of society, producing secularized structure of public education and government. The role of the church has become one of strictly spiritual responsibilities, leaving world matters to the efforts of science. Although there are benefits to this organization of society, there are some critical problems, the greatest being our lack of connection to the interdependent web of life. By separating our thoughts concerning creation and evolution, we have removed our experience as spiritual beings from our experiences as human beings. And the results have become disastrous. As the universe has been unfolding, so too has creation. In the birth of humanity, consciousness, the meeting place of life force and its development, became conscious of itself. This too has shown to be an evolutionary process. However, as our consciousness has been evolving, creation has continued to unfold, and through the distinctions of science and religion, we have disconnected our evolving consciousness from that process of creation. Therefore, we are developing an intellect that is disconnected from its source. In order for the process of life to continue, consciousness must intercede and form community. This has been a recurring pattern in the evolution of creation. The Doubleday Dictionary that I use at home defines the words conscience as the faculty by which distinctions are made between right and wrong, ethical judgment or sensibility, conscious as mentally aware of one's inner thoughts and feelings, and also of things external to oneself, and consciousness as the state of being conscious. It is in this single root word that I believe we can find the purpose in our future. This is an unprecedented time in the history of our humanity. We are currently faced with the universal challenge to continue the evolution of creation. To care for creation and to serve the most vulnerable among us are mandates shared by all religions. It will be through the act of conscious evolution that consciousness will continue to evolve. And again, in the words of Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, the 20th century French Jesuit paleontologist, quote, "The day will come when after harnessing space, the wind, the tides, and gravitation, we will harness for God the energies of love. And on that day, for the second time in the history of the world, we shall have discovered fire." May the rediscovery of fire be the chalice we light to reconnect, for creation to unfold, for evolution to continue to occur, and for God to continue to become.